Okay, we're going to take a look at industrialization and urbanization and some of the problems that are going to be created as we go from the farm to the factories and then eventually into our large cities and our large urban areas. We've already talked about these before. Let's do a quick review and then start diving into some of the problems and potentially come up with some solutions. So, as we've already learned, industrialization is the process where during the late early 1800s, we went from people-powered machines to larger, more effective people-powered machines, and then eventually to machines powered by water, and then steam engines, and then large factories are going to mass produce these goods. And with the creation of these factories, we create jobs, which brings people in from the rural areas. Farmers are being replaced by machines on the farms. They're moving into the cities to take these jobs. And as more and more factories create more and more jobs, large urbanization takes place basically around these factories and jobs. So we've got our factories developing, and then around the factories we see the need for housing, the need for other businesses, and urbanization is going to develop. And this process takes a very long time, but in reality, the urbanization and industrialization happen very, very, very fast. And one of the reasons we're going to see some of these problems is because of the speed of these two developments. So we do need to understand that industrialization and urbanization feed off of each other. Where there is more industrialization, there will be more urbanization. As more and more factories grow and attract more people, cities develop, which creates the need for more industry and more jobs, and they feed off of each other. But in these factories, there's going to be lots and lots of problems. We've talked about these already. Long hours and low wages for the workers, dangerous conditions, child labor, the abuse of the workers. The factories are unhealthy, they're unsafe. The factories themselves pollute the air, the water, and the land. And for the people who are working in them, there's really no benefits or support for them. We also see similar problems in the cities. The cities are overcrowded. We have problems with our tenement housing. The buildings are made of poor and cheap materials. There's no sanitation, fresh water, therefore disease and sickness spreads quickly. Crime and violence are rampant. There's a lack of public services, and pollution is everywhere. So we see some major problems in both the factories and the cities, and the question is why? Why are the conditions in the factories and in the cities so bad? Well, one of the biggest reasons we could use to explain that is because of profit. The people who built the factories, the people who built the buildings were in search of profit, and they used the cheapest materials and ways that they could in order to achieve profit. For example, child labor. If I'm an owner of an early factory, I'm going to hire as many children as possible because I can pay those children less. By paying my workers less, it puts more money in my pocket, more profit for me and for the owners. So as an owner, I'm at an advantage to hiring children to work in my factories. But what is going on with the government? Why are there no laws preventing me from hiring child labor? The government really should be doing something about this. We've already looked at examples and evidence of children as young as 5 and 6 years old working 16, 17-hour days in the factories. Where's the government in all this? Shouldn't the government be doing something about it? Well, we can owe that in part to this guy right here. This is Adam Smith, who is basically the father of modern capitalism, and he wrote this book called The Wealth of Nations. And in it he said, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regard to their own self-interest." So what does this all mean, talking about butchers and bakers and brewers? Well, Adam Smith's idea of free market capitalism talked about how business should work. And he said a couple of things. Basically, he said self-interest is good. Doing what is best for you benefits everyone, and he believed in a philosophy of laissez-faire capitalism, where basically we should let things just sort of run their course, let things be, and everything will work out in the end for everybody. How that's going to affect the government is that basically the idea of laissez-faire means the government should keep its hands off of business, that it was in the best interest of the government to let business do whatever it wants to do. And when owners can do whatever they want, the owners themselves are going to see huge profits, but it's going to come at a cost to everybody else. So as an owner, no laws or regulations by the government means I can hire children, I can have child labor, I can pay low wages, I can abuse my workers whichever way I want, I can force them to work 16-hour workdays, 7 days a week. I don't have to provide benefits, and for me, this is huge profits, but for my workers, not so much. And what are some solutions to these problems? Well, things really aren't going to change until the government's going to get involved. And we're going to see some movement of people in that direction. Okay? Living conditions won't work, working conditions won't get better until the government's going to do something about it.
Created using Powtoon.